So what was your favorite moment from the Asians?
From Asians, that I had the chance to be in warm-up area when Rahmat and Ritski was warming up, and then to watch them on the platform. It was the coolest weight class, and it was nice that I saw them from the bar, from the general warm-up, till the platform in snatch and clean and jerk, and it was cool battle because both did good lifts, so it wasn't like both nervous and just no lifts. They did good kilos, and it was a nice experience to watch how they went and how different they are, how different they went through the weights. So it was cool. It was at the Asian. And at the Europeans, it was amazing battle in '89 because the venue was full packed, maybe 3,000 of people, absolutely crazy. So it was like this. And Carlos, Nino, and a few more guys, they did a good show.
Nice, nice. That it must have been exciting. I mean, just talking about Europeans, it was just about a year ago, I think, that we first talked, and when we started the research. I contacted you somewhere in February, I think, and then in April when the Europeans then was like later.
Exactly. Yeah, you are right.
We collected some, so it's a little bit of a kind of like an anniversary recording now with that. So that's nice. So another thing that why I wanted to talk to you is the K value, which I think many people like knows, and in the literature, it is always bugging me. And then I found an interesting passage in Oleshko's book, which is also talking about the K value, but but in a different context. So what I wanted to just maybe cover is like what is the K value, and then how it is used, how you used it personally, or where is it coming from, if you know some background on it.
So asking step by step, yes, I used it. I used it in the version that Bob Takano explained. And I used it in my programming when I was an athlete, and I use it in my programming even now. And I picked up it in the book of Alexei Medvedev, 1986, which is called System of Long-Term Training in Weightlifting. I found it here, and I'm not sure if it was called K value or something like this. Yeah, it was called in Medvedev book. Just it was called K value. It was called because it was coefficient of intensity, and because in Russian we write coefficient in Russian language, coefficient around not written not from C but from K. That is why it was K value. But in the Medvedev book it was coefficient, intensity coefficient, and formula is pretty simple and pretty useful. It's when you take your average training intensity in kilos and you split it with your actual or expected total in kilos as well, and the good number is 38% plus minus 2. And what is why this value is good, and why I assume it's nice to use it, because it's very simple. If you do calculation by the end of the week, by the end of the month or of the period, you definitely will know your average training weight. It's worth to consider or to think if it will be average training weight overall or only in the main exercises. And I mean, if you will cut like lightweight presses, bodybuilding, and so on, only if you will leave snatch exercises, clean and jerks, pull, pulls and squats. I used it this way. And you can take your actual or expected total, which you also know, and then you will get the number. And as books say, it's supposed to be 38-ish. And I assume, and how I use it, for me, it was important to see the tendency. For example, if I have 12-week preparation, for me, it was important to see that during these 2 weeks, this coefficient is growing up. Of course, during these 2 weeks, I had a deload week, and I keep it in my mind that it's fine that in this deload week, it can be a little bit different, because we also know that we can do deload week by cutting the number of session, the volume, but we can maintain high intensity. It also will be deload week, or we can deload week generally by lowering everything down. But in my mind, the coefficient of intensity should grow in the main periods of training. And if you start with, let's say, 36.5, you must finish closer to the competition, like 3 weeks out of the competition, it might be closer to 40. In this case, you can assume that you or your team have potential to get the PRs. This is my opinion.
Okay, I see. So it's not like, because I had this impression that basically the coefficient is kind of like an individual given. So let's say, because one should calculate this when so what I since you mentioned Takano, I think what he says is that you should calculate this at the end of a good training cycle where you hit a new PR, and then you have your coefficient number, which is like 36 or 38-ish, whatever, but it's gonna be like dependent on the individual. And I was assuming that you should keep that value the same. And now you are saying that actually you can increase it within the training, and if you go as you reach the peak of the training, it can change for 30. Okay.
Yeah. So the model is 38 plus minus 2%. So it can be 36, it's good, and 40, it's good. But in the same time, we should understand that somehow people find that this is the model. If it's lower, you means that your training process is not efficient. If it's over, you mean that you are under critical stress. Be ready to meet new injuries or to be overtrained. So this is the like lane or road where you must stay, but depending on the goal of this period, it can be lower or higher. And in the same time, if we speak about growing result, it must have tendency of moving up closer to the competition period.
Yeah, I see now. And then in that case, so the baseline in that case would be like calculating it weekly, and then see like how you go, and then you can also obviously calculate for the entire cycle, and then that's where it evens out. So if you, let's say the first few weeks you started at 36, and then towards the end when you are peaking PRing, it's 40-ish, then it's gonna even out on 38 somewhere.
Yeah, correctly. Because why it's good for us? Because the first, it's simple. The second one, when you just see that your average training weight is just growing, you can't objectify it so well as, for example, if you have this room from 36 to 40, it's just 4%, but in the same time, you can objectify, and in the same time, you can compare teammates or people in the same team. Because, for example, if your average training weight is 150 kilos and your best total is 400 kilos, and my training weight is 120, but my best total 360. How can we understand if we are on the same level of average intensity?
Okay.
Yeah. So whatever we want something to the coefficient, we can objectify in between. You can compare it between the same person, but in the distance of like 3-4 years. Because, for example, if I was in the previous Olympic cycle in lower weight class, and I competed on the certain level, and then I changed weight class and I changed my lifting kilos, I can compare if I'm same good or same bad, you know, like.
Okay. And this is what Oleshko's formula is about. I think that's what he's talking about in the passage that I sent you before.
Yeah.
Probably I'm gonna cut it in.
Yeah, translation is bad. That's that's the issue.
Yeah. Nice. And did you so you were always looking at the coefficient itself, but did you look at maybe like because I had trouble like understanding how can I use it in kind of like a prescriptive manner, because that's like other than yes, the coefficient should be this or that value, and I should calculate that weekly, but then and that's the actual, so I can know where I'm at. But in planning the training, did you ever like use it like what should be the average weight and monitor it that way, or how is it used then in the planning phase? Because I can track and see where I'm at, but how do I enter, and how much new total should I enter to see like, okay, where should I go, or how could it be used?
I will tell you my individual experience. So I honestly, I didn't use it for planning. I use it for concluding.
Okay.
So yeah, because like one of my coaches always say that plan, it's not a dogma. It's your instruction, a call for action. Because during the week, mostly or more often, you will change something from like 5 to 30% of the plan. Something went better, something went worse. So for myself, you telling me, and I close my eyes and I remember my diary. So where I put this number. So it stand like on the left from the average intensity, and I calculated everything with this, and this. So yeah, so by the end of the week, when I did the conclusion of this week, I need to have this number to have a perspective for planning the next week. Because when I did, so I mostly had this number by the end, not before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, what surprised me, because I was like, if this is a given number, so the way I use it now, and it's not like super strict planning, but I was like, okay, so this is a mathematical formula. So if I know that it has to result in 36, and if I have a new total that I want the athlete to achieve, then I can calculate the average weight that they need to hit, or I have to have them hit every week or during the cycle. And if I look at that and I see that, we are at that average weight, then I know that, okay, so I mean, at least now I'm testing that, okay, this is the hypothesis. I want them to like have a 10 kilo PR in the total.
Gergo, I agree with you 100%.
And then it's like, okay, I know this is the average weight they have to do, and then I monitor that whether we are on target with that. And it's really interesting.
I agree with you, because let me add, because when you have like automated template which calculate everything, of course you can put your numbers here and see, okay, I'm out of range, I need to cut or pulls or squats. Because when I did everything, it was manually, and for me it was just one more step because I had to plan, then calculate everything in average intensity, and then to split. I didn't do this. I did this only as a conclusion of the week.
Okay. Okay. And you know what surprised me is that even for a 10 kilo total PR, the change required in the average weight is like minor, like 2-3 kilos. And that was like a shock for me. Like if I keep the K value the same, but let's say I want plus 10 kilos in the average, or plus 10 kilos PR, if I calculate backwards, then let's say, so if I take like a 64 kilo 64 kilo female, and I want, and just reaching the first classification, going from like 120 to 130 total, and the average weight required will go from like somewhere from 44 to 46 kilos.
Maybe,
and that's not a big change in in what they are doing, and that this probably can explain why weightlifting is so monotonous, because you don't actually have to increase too much the intensity to get to new levels. And that was like eye-opening for me, like, ooh, well, I didn't think of that.
Maybe I will disappoint you, but this conclusion Medvedev did also in 1986. Yeah, I can you let me share the screen?
Yeah,
we are recording, because I just will swipe my screen and you will see this in the presentation where I teach the programming. So just to make sure, make me an make me a host.
Can you try now?
Yes. So see, I'm just switching to presentation, and it's a quote from his book. So it's 19. It was Gergo. It was this was statement made 40 years ago.
Okay.
And nice. this is this coefficient where this is this formula what we are discussing, and this is this quote. Because really a lot of coaches, they believe that to progress for 10 kilos in total, you need to squat like from 150 kilos to 250 kilos, and it's not true. You just need to see the whole picture, and then you will have a chance to do it efficiently.
Yeah, it's practically, I mean, I'm really curious. I don't know if this could be like an option, but if you have like a super record of everything, you just pop the 1 kilo plates on each weight that you did before for 8 weeks, and then check out if you landed on a bigger total, because it's like anyhow.
Because I also want to add why it's so important to track and to understand, because especially when people fail or when people got injury, they very often can't explain why it's happened. But if you will take numbers and you will calculate that, man, for a month you did over train your overhead position or pulls from hang, this is the reason why your lower back told you goodbye. And because people don't track, they can't understand, like it's just a bad faith or just no luck. Mostly in the Olympic weightlifting training, the whole explanation is in numbers.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a lot of from the numbers. And and then so you mentioned that you did it for pull, squats, and snatch and clean and jerk, and I guess you added all of those, so you didn't calculate for each of those categories, but it was like
in total
for each week, basically. And that was,
I calculated for week, for period, for week, month, period, which was usually from 2 to 3 months, and general preparation.
Okay. And I mean, I heard some opinions about like that you should do it basically for every exercise. So do you think that it could be used, let's say, just for the back squat, that it's not a total number, but it's like would it still, I guess it would still be a coefficient looking at like, I want a 10 kilo PR, this is the average weight, this will be the volume, but um
I
to
never
exercise.
heard, I didn't do that, never heard about this. And
Okay.
so I can't say it's better or not, because I, as a
Okay.
coach and as a person who trying to develop like methodology, I would happy if all coaches and all athletes calculated something or anything, because
Everything.
my
Yeah.
opinion that less than 30% have a good quality diaries, no matter it's like digital
Right.
or done by a hand. Because I honestly, I have a pleasure to watch when at the Europeans or worlds there are athletes who come do training, then sit down and write down, for
Write it
example,
down.
like Matthew Rogers. Most people like snatch, clean and jerk, I don't want to squat today, then pulls.
Yeah. Okay. I see. I see. That's interesting. And yet they are still there. So I don't know if, I mean, I don't want to speak against calculations because I think they kind of like can safeguard some of your results at least, or prevent some of your injuries if you have them. But if you can get, but I guess then someone else does the calculations for them, uh, uh, if if they don't. And actually, I mean, part of the reason I decided to go into the research and do the application that we are developing also, was like, okay, have these numbers readily available, uh, easily. Okay. Um, Exercise variation. That I already asked the exercise variation, and there was something else. Jeez. Um, but I forgot. I think
No rush. You
on
you
the
we have time and you can always edit.
yeah exercise variation. Oh yes, the Medvedev book. Is it available?
On Bad
Um.
Cherniga website. The translation is also sucks, but exists, because
Okay.
I had my own. It's already look like an ancient Bible, but it's in Russian, and
Yeah.
for me it's the main book. So I like Aleshka's book as well, and
Yeah.
it includes most information that exists in Medvedev. But for me, Medvedev, it's like old style, that
Right.
it's the book that I started to understand weightlifting from it, and I still believe
Okay.
that it's valuable.
Yeah. I mean, it should be. It should be. At least that's what our research also confirmed. Like these numbers don't didn't. I mean, only the power versions changing is like is something very interesting, and also not being that much variation across males and females with regards to this. That's also interesting.
It's like
Um,
we spoke with you about the relation between strength exercises and accessory exercises, and recently when we spoke with
yeah,
Australians, we mentioned that, for example, Chinese, they have like crazy reserve in strength in comparison with everyone else. But in the same time, now Olympics are coming. Tintao injured, Shi Zhiyong injured, Li Dayin injured.
oh really?
Yeah. And yes, they can squat like 3 times more. And
But what's the
so
use if they get injured? Yes, I see. Um,
because we understand that overemphasizing on strength, especially in such exercises and squat and pulls, kill you. It's true. Because
yeah,
like old-fashioned coaches said, you will be able to do clean and jerk wherever you can triple in front squats. You must be ready
yeah,
for this, because it's
yeah,
triple. You have even one lift in reserve. So if you can do from potentially, if you can do triple for front squats 200 and do clean and jerk 200, why you need to squat like 280? Because anyway it will
yeah,
be damaging. It's a very philosophical question. I don't want to
yeah,
say that someone is wrong or correct, but as I said, Olympics are coming. We have three legendary weightlifters from China who came by the end of the Olympic cycle injured. Question: what's
Right.
going wrong?
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, when I was first injured and I had to go to orthopedics, and um, the like treatment, ultrasound treatment with my shoulder, and I was like, oh, I could have prevented this. I was talking to the lady who was administering the ultrasound therapy, and then she was just laughing, like, yeah, I mean, how? Because injuries can happen. Like you stand on a bus, the bus all of a sudden stops, public transport, and then you just pull your shoulder, and it's like not much you can do about it. But I guess that's not the case with them. No. Splitting all those numbers. All right. I mean, I think this was very very good and very useful. Um, it's I think so. So Medvedev doesn't talk about like because I haven't read that book. That's my bad. But I will. I will correct
Cool.
that error. But does he talk about just exercises generally, or just like the overall picture of a training session, and whether like everything should be included or not? You touched on this, that it could be added, that you look at it from the perspective of doing all the accessory work as well, or warm up work, or is it just focusing on the main lifts and the main part, meaningful intensity, so to say? What does he say about that, if you can recall?
You say about key value, yeah?
Yeah. Just the
Yeah,
key value.
his proposition to calculate with this parameter only snatch, clean and jerk, snatch, pulls, clean, pulls, and squats from 70%. This was
Okay.
his approach.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's an important question, because whatever you will open, like Medvedev, Frolov, or any American authors, you should be very accurate, and keep in mind that all of them did their measurement from different percentages. Someone give recommendation from 50, from 60. Someone like Piros Dimas say everything that below 80% doesn't make any sense. You can do them, you can not do them, wherever. It will not help. If you don't do the work on 80%, it doesn't make any sense. From other authors, you can say that you will be able to train your muscle feeling on the intensity from 60 to 75% when you're trying to develop your technique. But
Yeah.
anyway, then you need to jump in 80-85 to make this technique reliable on real competitive lifts. So it's always a philosophy of training, and the only person who will stand on the podium in a few months in Paris on the first place, those training programs are the best. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about this as well. Like, I think two things here. Like, you need to be consistent on how you do it, and it doesn't really matter where you started. But if you just don't compare something calculated based on starting from 70% to something calculated based on 60%. But then also, as the more program I write, I realize that a lot of times what I write under 70% is just the same. So it's just the same way of moving up to those weights that are meaningful. And then this whole question of where you should start is kind of like mathematical, because if it's the same, you can just mathematically write it off. Like it's always there, so it doesn't matter. That's
It makes sense.
that's like it's always part of the equation. Then you can just make the equation simple with that, and that's why you start from 70, 75 and stuff like that. Because, or that would be my take. Like if I'm writing this and it's always the same, going from, as in a warm up, from 60, 65, 70, and it's always like 2, 2, 2, 2, and then what's the what's the added value in calculating with those?
Yeah, but
Of course.
where the question is that if we discuss it from the perspective of writing as a coach, it's one side. The question is how athlete perceive and pay attention to this part of work, because there are people who do bar and the next set will be 70%.
Yeah.
And there are people who do 3 sets on 50%, 3 sets on 60%. They don't put it in the diary, but they do as many sets as they need to feel. And this is the big difference.
Yeah, it's big, but if it's always there, then, you know, like if they always do it.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's like, okay, it's there. But yeah, I mean, it's a big difference in the athlete's preparation for sure. I tend to use big jumps. I don't like to, like, I mean, why get fatigued? But I'm a heavyweight, so I don't like to get fatigued. It's just get to the weights as quick as possible and then get over
That's it. It's like Max Saita always asked me when we conversate, because he loved to speak about the programming. He said, like, how many reps per week? And I said, like, from what percentage we started to calculate? Because 600 lifts per week, if we count 80%, it's people who will go to the cemetery after this volume. If we count from 50%, it's absolutely affordable numbers. But from where it should be calculated.
Right. Interesting. Okay. I think we did a good job of going through what it is, where it is coming from, how it is used, both in actuals and in planning. So I don't, and then how it can be used to like adjust and see how you do across different weight classes. So thank you, Sergei, for this one. It was good. I learned a lot actually, and I will definitely check out that mat video.
Next time I will also put a background with the gym, because here I have just my wall and guitar. But next time I will prepare.
That's very nice. That's very nice. I mean, I would. I mean, it would be otherwise totally. I can take it off, but it would be otherwise totally like boring white wall, because I'm sitting in my work desk corner and it's like just I like it white. So
cool.
and you should see my desk, because my desk is like papers all over the place with books and novels and stuff. So
person in science, person in development, everything is cool.
Yeah. Anyhow, thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. I will update you on how our paper is progressing. It's still under review. Once the reviews are
I know review is so long.
Yeah. We will see. But I'm hopeful. And then we will still talk about the clean and jerk part, because I'm writing that up. The draft.
Agree. It was a pleasure to talk.
Yeah. Same here. Bye-bye.